Welcome to track 17, Bolt Up. Track 18,
Oh my God,
we're losing
start it over.
count here, but we're getting close to that episode 20. We got through 20 episodes before we moved to Spotify, and we redid the count with the relaunch. But we are back. I'm your host, The Rook, and I'm joined by the medical guy. And we are here for some week 7 analysis and week 6 recap. We got, of course, the 2-minute drill, the Rooks looks, records of the week, power rankings towards the end. The Rooks looks should be interesting this week because you'll see. But we want to start it off per usual with our Shatter the Script segment, brought to you by Shady McCoy on Speak. This is the show we always pick on for the most part. So. But this is Shady McCoy talking about Jalen Hurts throwing 3 interceptions in Week 6 versus the Jets.
Oh, listen, Jalen Hurts, he played bad. Had a bad game. 3 turnovers or 3 picks. That's a career high for him.
Now, you've described games like this differently for other quarterbacks. You haven't used the words like that. You've used other words, other type of vernacular, different type of vernacular.
Macho.
I'm wondering why now it's bad. Used another 3-letter word previously, but now we're just using bad.
Well,
clarify that.
And I will for you. This is a great question.
Thank you, sir.
The thing is, in this league, you get judged on how you play, how you keep playing, how you keep playing.
Yes, sir.
If you have a bad game, I've been there. I've done that.
Of course.
You had a bad game?
Of course, many of them.
Okay, so I understand that. So, yes, Jalen Hurts, did he play well? No, he did not.
Yeah.
He didn't do well. He didn't play enough to win. He played bad. He lost us the game. Let's just go further and say that.
Okay.
Yes. Now, one thing about Jalen Hurts is he's shown all of us, he always gets better. He always improves. You think he's not in his house or in the locker room thinking about how can he make this thing better? But can we get a Jets some credit, though? Because they made Patrick Mahomes struggle.
Yep, 2 picks.
And Josh Allen,
Whoa.
I mean, every time he played him, it seemed like he's struggling. So we got to give him some credit.
But remember, Dak Prescott against the Jets defense did not struggle. I'm just having to read the objective facts, because if I'm a Cowboys fan watching this, the Jets defense was great. I know Cowboys fans. I can hear the echo of Dave Hellman.
I got something for Cowboys fans if they have questions.
Not even a question. That would be the retort.
Man, I think, they were talking about that Chargers fan being an implant, but I think Joy Taylor might be an implant. She is out to get Dak Prescott, but obviously, dude, he started off saying, but Jalen Hurts does progress over time. The one thing that the analysts called out in previous pods is that with all the coordinator changes in a new year and a sophomore, a Super Bowl hangover is what they refer to it as, we're seeing a regression because I think they're escaping their identity. But yeah, I mean, to Shady's point, we do see, him constantly improving each year, which is what a quarterback should do as a young quarterback. But I want to touch on the Jets part because you got to hand it to the Jets. That quote itself sets me off because of the obvious, and I'll let you hit the points about the Jets because I don't want to steal that from you, because I know that's probably what you're thinking here is, what the hell is he talking about? Dak torched. Well, he was very efficient against the Jets, but I would call it torched if you're talking about a QB masterclass. But
yeah. I mean, you kind of hit it right there, but it just kind of goes to show the whole theme of what we're talking about, shattering the script, right? The goalposts per se always get moved and switched when we're talking about the Cowboys and or Dak, right? Josh Allen didn't do this against the Jets. Patrick Mahomes had a hard time getting it, blah, blah, blah. But
right.
We quickly fail to mention that, Dak, you say shred, not shred, whatever, did his job. They won the game. The offense had no trouble moving the ball, right? And so it just goes back to what we're talking about is like how the narrative just gets pushed towards a certain direction and just gets pushed in a different theme when talking about one team and then talking about the Cowboys, right?
Yeah.
And to talk a little bit about Jalen Hurts, right? Shattering the script of like, hey, he's someone that needs to throw it a lot. It's kind of like the analyst said, like the last couple of games, or especially this season, what's he done more of? Throw the ball.
Right.
What's what is we seen that has increased with him? Interceptions, bad passes, games that are not as close or that are closer than what maybe they would have been last year or should have been this year. And so I just think it's crazy how the philosophical goalposts get moved when talking about one quarterback in contrary to the other quarterback. And it's just, it does get frustrating as a Cowboys fan. And I can't imagine it's not frustrating being the fourth guest on that show right there, because you know what your stance has to be. Like, everybody else is against the Cowboys and Dak, and then it's like, well, I got to put out a couple of facts here, but I mean, it gets turned away with, just
minimal screen time.
Yeah, ridiculous. You get shoved back at Fox on a podcast, Dave Hellman. Like
exactly.
It's just crazy. But what are your thoughts on it? I know I touched a little bit on the Jets, but what are your thoughts on that whole? Excerpt from all of them right there.
I find it strange that Emmanuel Acho keeps finding him in weird situations where he's sticking his neck out for Cowboys fans, when all last year he ridiculed and made fun of us all year. That's been his mantra. I mean, he got practically famous. Well, he tried to pull a Stephen A, the last 2 years with clowning the Cowboys, and he got called out for it. And then he had uncomfortable conversations with the black man to explain his actions. But, I don't know. Like you said, you stick the guy at the end of the table. He's like the Judas of the group. He's going to – but the alternative scenario here is he's going to be spitting facts. But, only Cowboys fans are going to turn to him and listen. The rest of the sheep, if you will, are listening to Shady call him ass, and that's all they hear. And then they listen to Acho and hear him say words like vernacular and go, what the hell does that have to do with football? He's a clown. They're not listening to what he's saying. So I don't understand why Acho is sticking his neck out for the Cowboys. As personally, I don't need him. We don't need him or Skip Bayless to defend us.
Jesus.
But LaShawn McCoy would not have brought that up, and the show would not have brought that up if not for Emmanuel Acho. So I got to give credit for where credit's due, even when it is part of the script.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. But yeah, you hit it on the nails with the Jets analysis. I mean, that's clown act. But all right. Well, let's get into a little bit of October baseball. We got the Lone Star Series in the ALCS with the Rangers and the Astros. We started off with two games in Houston, and then the Rangers surprisingly took both at home. And you had the 2-0 victory the first game. We had Jordan Montgomery versus Justin Verlander, followed by Nathan Eovaldi and Framber Valdez. And so I don't know. This is a little, and I get it. I'm going to bring it up a little bit at the records of the week towards the end of the podcast, like the stat that I have in my head, but it's very odd to me. What's going on in this series is the one thing that the Rangers were and the MLB was so collectively scared of was the Rangers bullpen. And outside of Aroldis Chapman, which I predicted this when we covered this, I think in July, I don't even remember, a long time ago, where I said that at the time of the Aroldis Chapman trade, it might have been on record, it might have been off, but I said that Chapman we're going to lose in the ALCS because we have Chapman now. And I said to the Astros, I said, if the Astros were in it, we would lose. So I'm like, we're here now. And the two times Chapman has come in, he's given a nuke to Alvarez, and he's given almost a nuke to Bregman. I believe it was Bregman. And then Evan Carter made that amazing play in game one. But the bullpen has done its job, which is shocking. The only thing for the Astros is, I mean, I'm sure you have a lot to say about, their offense and maybe their starting pitching. Well, I'll let you give your thoughts on the Astros, but I'm loving the Rangers bullpen right now. I think their bats could heat up a little bit more. They start hot and then just peter off. So hopefully they can get their bats a little hot in this home stretch. But
yeah. Well, first I want to say props to the Rangers. I mean, this is a team full of guys outside of two people that have really never been in the playoffs. And so props to them. Props to Jordan Montgomery. He threw a gem the first game. and I'm going to try not to throw any stats and numbers out there because there's 2 stats that I have at the end for our records, and one of them is definitely yours. So I'm going to try not to throw them out there. However, props to the Rangers. Like you said, the biggest thing that they're worried about is their bullpen. Okay. And I'm trying not to use a stat, but it's shown that when their starters reach a certain amount of innings, that they're almost unbeatable. And that just shows, and you could look at it, 30 other teams in MLB. And if your starters go out there and do well, you set yourself up good. And so that's where the Rangers have done a good job of kind of hiding their quote unquote weakness is your bullpen guys aren't having the pitch in the 5th inning or the 6th inning. They're normally coming in with clean innings, nobody on base. Even if you are facing that Alvarez, you're facing him with nobody on base, or even Bregman for that matter. You kind of got away with one there, but bases aren't loaded. You're not having it. That's not happening in the 5th or 6th inning. It's happening in the 7th or 8th. But just kind of my notes on the Astros. Both game 1 and game 2 were very well pitched games outside of Framber Valdez, and if anything, Framber makes a play and doesn't throw a ball into section 117 over there, like that could be a totally different game. That's probably there's 3 things that I was just disappointed in. Is the Astros are known for being great contact hitters. They don't strike out a lot, but they're also very patient. And I think they've kind of gotten away from that really bad. I know we've talked kind of off the pod and whatnot about like, hey, we know what the Rangers' weakness is. Even if we're not necessarily just hitting the ball over the park or scoring a bunch of runs, if we're forcing these starters to get, high inning or high pitch innings and stuff like that, and they're, getting into the 5th or 6th inning with high pitch counts, well, then you kind of expose their weakness. And I think the Astros have kind of gotten away from that a little bit. You see people like Bregman, who's had multiple seasons with 100 walks. And, 3 or 4 at-bats this series have been first pitch, boom, flyouts. And it's like, that's very uncharacteristic. The other one is Kyle Tucker has been an absolute no-show in this series. And I've said it from the start of the playoffs, is like, he's got to be the difference maker in this. Because Altuve, regardless if he hits or not, everybody's scared of him. Bregman's always a great hitter. Alvarez is probably the hottest hitter on the planet right now. Pause. And then you have Kyle Tucker, who normally hits right behind him. And so you've got to at least somehow strike a little bit of fear. And right now he looks lost at the plate, and he's got to turn it around. And then the Astros are 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. And that one hit that they had didn't score a run. And so they just got to be better. I know last game was, it was just the biggest eye-opening thing, or 2 eye-opening things were Framber having a very bad first inning, and then the Astros having multiple chances to score runs with runners in scoring position, especially with less than 2 outs. And so I just think that's where they're going to have to change it up. Fortunately, they seem to love to play in other people's ballparks, so we'll see if we'll turn it around. I'll actually be there for this game, so maybe I'll bring them a little bit of luck or whatever. Yeah, there we go. And then the last point I have is I think I really don't agree with the decision for Max Scherzer to start this game.
I don't either.
He's had minimal rehab stuff. He's already had a shoulder injury. He's an older guy. I get it. He's got a lot of expertise and a lot of experience in this position. However, in the past, he hasn't been very good in the playoffs. And so I think just rushing him back is just something that, especially with a 2-0 lead right now, I just don't think it's very smart. And especially if that sets that bullpen up for a bad position. Because say, and this is all hypothetical, say you get into it and he has a short outing, right? When I say short outing, I'm not expecting him to go more than 4 innings. So if he goes less than 4 innings, all of a sudden your weakness is out there. And if that weakness gets exposed and you got to play 3 games in a row with a taxed bullpen, well, I think that could set up something bad for the series, especially when you got other starters that have kind of been doing their job and whatnot. But those are kind of my points on there. What's your biggest takeaways? What's your notes and stuff you got for the Rangers and or the Astros?
Yeah, and I'll touch on Scherzer a little bit because you brought that point up, and I wanted to comment on that because obviously the game's on Wednesday, but the starting pitching, and I know the stat that you're talking about, but Jordan Montgomery, absolutely phenomenal. He's been locating his pitches, getting ahead of the count. And then, of course, in the second game was what really caught my eye because Eovaldi, he's been a dog all postseason, but he got caught in some very difficult positions in this game too, specifically when the bases were loaded with 0 outs. And I'm watching it on my way home from work, which obviously I work in, in Houston area. So everybody in there hates my guts. So anyway, it was kind of fun trolling them on the Jonah Heim home run and all that before I left. But anyway, I was sitting there in the car looking at it, trying not to, watch the road or whatever. Anyway, strikeout number 1, strikeout number 2, and then ground out. Great play by Josh Young, to end the inning. Boy, that'll fire up a team. That'll send you another 3 innings of momentum. You're just getting out of that scenario. And, props to – and they were jinxing him too. I heard a lot of that. The one thing ESPN does, man, I was listening. I had switched to their broadcast or whatever because we hit our screen limit on YouTube. I guess everybody was watching it. But anyway, I always think about how baseball commentary, there's so much dead space in between pitches, even with the pitch clock. So they're just throwing stats out their ass throughout the entire game on both the Astros and the Rangers. And during this, Nathan Eovaldi was the AL's best pitcher with runners in scoring position with 0 outs and the bases loaded. I'm like, it's about to explode.
What a stat.
But the one thing the Rangers can't do going into this home stretch for them in Arlington is once they get a lead, they can't just be satisfied with the runs that they've got. They got to get their offense to continue to pile on because the 2 games, we've escaped 2 games because both those games were less than 2 or less runs closing out the ball game. Yeah. And I believe did the Leclerc face, I forget, did he face Altuve last in game 2 or did he make it to okay. Yeah. We were close to avoiding a walk-off by Alvarez. Yeah. That's what I'll say. But leading into game 3, with Scherzer, I totally agree. I've been telling my coworkers I don't know how long he's gonna go because I don't know how healthy he is. I don't know. I know he's been pitching like 70 pitch bullpens, feeling fine. I don't imagine him going more than 5 innings. But also, why would you start a pitcher that doesn't go more than 5 innings to put your bullpen in a inefficient scenario when you can wait till maybe game 6 or 7 when you're out of arms if it goes to that long, which I imagine it will, and have him pitch a full game there or just be a bullpen guy. So like if Chapman screws it up, throw Scherzer in there and it'll be an interesting home stretch. I mean, the Rangers are the best AL team at home, and the Astros are phenomenal away. So we will see what happens. I think it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and it's going to be the other interesting thing is the Rangers did the same thing with another pitcher on y'all's team earlier in the season, Eovaldi, right? They brought him back from a forearm strain early, and his first 3 or 4 starts coming off that were awful.
Yeah, terrible.
Awful. And then you get back into it, you start throwing longer games, longer outings, and you get back into it. And I just don't want to see, to see the Astros win, I would want to see it, but to see someone great like Scherzer go out there and he's a little older, you never know when his last pitch is going to be or his last start. I'd hate for him to do it like that. I know you want to hurry up and everything like that, but it would just be really tough to see him go out there and struggle when it could have been avoided. And like I said, if I were cheering for the Rangers, I wouldn't want to see this just because what your weak spot is. If he goes out there and gives you a short stint, well then obviously automatically you're put in an interesting position. And no offense, but the Rangers don't want to get in a bullpen battle with the Astros because the Astros bullpen the last phenomenal. 2 games looks stupid.
Phenomenal.
Montero threw a scoreless inning. He hasn't done that in a month. So it's just exposing yourself to something that you don't need to be exposed to right now. And I don't know if I would agree with that decision, but I'm not going to show.
Whatever gets the most ratings, which three wins in a row for the Astros would be pretty good ratings.
Yeah, I'm cool with
it. All right. Well, let's get into some NFL recap week 6. All right. Obviously, this is highlights and recap from the previous week. I'm going to start it off with the Saints versus Texans. So 20-13, Texans take the dub. I mean, Stroud threw his first interception this game, and nobody said a word. Not that they should, because he's having a phenomenal rookie year, but it was going to happen at some point, and I hate that it even happened for the guy. But
that's the best interception I've seen anybody throw, right? Because he threw it and got the ball right back. So.
Exactly. And I think, like what you just mentioned, the defense, I think, carried this ball game heavily for the Texans. They weren't able to get too much going on the ground. I always keep saying that the Texans' run game needs some improvement, even though Devin Singletary had a pretty solid outing. Rarely enough. I think you can count on Dameon Pierce to have, 13 or 12 to 15 touches for 35 yards every game. But every 4 to 10 yard run is just an absolute hammerhead shark of a run. So it's nothing to take away from Dameon Pierce. I think he's a solid, 1,200 yard back, but they got to get something going over there to get that run game going to relieve some stress off their rookie. Woke Boy finally figured out his gender role. It's been activated. It's a male adult in the end zone. That dude is on, I think, a 3 or 4 game stretch of touchdowns. And, man, you got to hand it to Woke Boy. I mean, Abbott's, thinking about going to Israel to send our Texans over to fight. And his eyes are away from the transgenders. So, I mean, Schultz is just playing lights out now that, Abbott's distracted. Yeah. And then to move over to the Saints, dude, they look terrible. They look awful. Yeah. I mean, and I keep saying, I think I've talked about the Saints specifically for 3 weeks now. So I'm basically Dave Hellman for the Saints. The head coach, Dennis Allen, has this team playing poorly.
Yeah.
They're undisciplined. They're sloppy. Their offense has no mojo, no rhythm, no aggression. The play calling is iffy. Derek Carr is playing like the worst Derek Carr I've ever seen in my life. He's an average thrower of the football, I should say. And there were some key penalties against the defense in this game that I thought were I think there was one on Lattimore in the end zone on Nico Collins. I mean, Noah Brown was exploding for catches, which your defense is fried when this stuff happens.
Schultz and Noah Brown carrying the receiving core just shows how bad this was.
Yes, exactly. And for a guy like Stroud to be able to get those guys open, props to him, because it didn't look like they were very tight windowed throws, as we saw from Dak all last year with the amount of lack of separation we had from our receivers like Brown and Schultz. But towards the end of this game, Derek Carr got into absolute heave mode. I mean, that dude was just chunking footballs to the pylon the whole game. And I'm like, that's not going to get you back in the game. And it just looks sloppy. And a quick stat to throw out there: Taysom Hill, 1 for 1, 4 yards, 83.3 QBR. Derek Carr, 32 of 50, 353 yards, a touchdown interception, 83.17 QBR. So Taysom Hill is a better quarterback than Derek Carr, and they need to replace the two. I mean, he's got that's kind of my analysis on the Saints in Texans game. I don't know if you have any quick comments on that, if you catch any of the game.
I caught the game. It was just like, I don't know. I feel like on my TV, I just keep getting the shit games, man. I was like, this game was on. I'm like, bro, really?
Yeah.
But it's just sad. The Saints are just kind of sad right now because like they get Alvin Kamara back. They absolutely feed him, which good for my fantasy team. But and it just seems like they didn't get any better. I mean, this is the most just wasted energy team, it seems like, because Derek Carr threw the ball like so much and did so little, and then Alvin Kamara just like sums it up. Like, what does he have? Like, since he's returned, he's got to have like 20 catches for like I don't know, 60 yards.
60 yards,
Yeah. And I'm like, this team just embodies like just wasted energy. And so it's just, dude, you have called out Dennis Allen since day one, and you were just like, I mean, just hit the bullseye with it. It's just not working, whatever it is.
Yeah, well, it's good to hit the bullseye on something.
Yeah.
You know, instead of like outside of the Rooks looks or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What's your take on CJ Stroud? Do you think he's it? Do you think, he needs to grow? What's your take on him?
Well, it's pretty shocking. I mean, obviously he's got a pretty good arsenal at receiver, what we found out, and I think that's through Stroud. I don't think that's because they're good. I think Stroud fits their archetypes perfectly. You know, Nico's kind of like that deep threat kind of intermediate guy. Tank Dell's their shifty slot guy. You know, Schultz is a safety blanket. And Robert Woods is the veteran, who you can count on in certain scenarios, and he's got a good running back. But the one thing that concerned me was this offensive line that's been banged up, and Stroud has responded by throwing 1 pick in 6 games. He's playing great. I mean, he's efficient in the red zone. He looks calm. He looks poised, like I mentioned before. He's not using his legs too much, which I know that he can. Yeah. I know he can move, and he hasn't shown it yet, which is a really good thing, because when he shows it, it'll be twice as effective as if you're like Jalen Hurts this year, escaping the pocket after 2 seconds and throwing it on the sideline every play. Props to Stroud, man. His overall grade, I would give him through 6 weeks would be a B+ for a rookie. Absolutely. Close to an A. And I only see him. I mean, currently he's playing like a top 10, 12 quarterback right now. He's playing that way. Not that he is one, but this year. What are your thoughts? I'm assuming you like the guy.
I mean, it just seems like he's checked all the boxes, man. I mean, you saw what this receiving core was last year. I mean, we know who Noah Brown is, and they added Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz. Like, they didn't just add, like, they added a rookie, and then they added 2 people that we've seen how more or less they aren't as explosive and number ones as you could say. And it just, like, it seems like no excuse, bad O-line, good O-line, no running back. Like, he just makes plays. He just goes out there and plays. And it just seems like he is that quarterback, that exception from Ohio State that has just turned out to be it. And it's funny that you mentioned like him about not using his legs, is because pretty sure it was either one of the games throughout his final year at Ohio State, he mentioned like, hey, he's like, I can run the ball. He was like, but I don't want to. Right. And he was like, I want to prove that I can throw, and I'm going to throw. And I thought that was pretty cool of him to say. And then like being like, hey, I'm not going to use my legs instead of an emergency. And, we hadn't had to use them yet. And it seems like, he can do whatever he needs to do as a quarterback. And it just seems crazy how the step up from last year to this year, even with a rookie quarterback, how much better the offense is. And just, I mean, the Texans they're a sneaky team, dude. A sneaky team. And I think the quarterback kind of embodies that. He's a sneaky good quarterback. You just don't think about it because it's the Texans. And then you look at him and he's got 7 or 8 touchdowns, 1,500 yards, like decent completion percentage. And he doesn't have a Diggs or Keenan Allen or a Hill or a Lamb. Like, he's got Nico Collins. You wouldn't know about him until the year started because you didn't know about him last year. And so I agree with you. I think he's B to A range right now.
Yeah. Let's move on into the Eagles versus the Jets.
Nice. So I'll be covering these 2 games. So Jets versus Eagles, Lions versus Bucks. I just like to say, called it on this game. I called the Jets to beat the Eagles, and kind of what Ryan's preached and what I've kind of bought into is, they are just absolutely pushing the envelope of Jalen Hurts has to throw the ball. If you just look at the stat sheets, I'm pulling it up right now. Jalen Hurts threw the ball 45 times. I'm sorry. Yeah. Most of the time, that's not going to happen. Like that, you're not going to win like that. And so I just think they are so quick to leave their identity and kind of prove a point. And I think Jalen Hurts is very similar to Dak, that if he's having to throw the ball 35, 40 plus times, that's not what you want to do. And it's not because he can't. It's just that that's not the winning formula. And that's the problem that I think everybody runs into is like, oh, you're calling Jalen Hurts a bad passer. No. But do you want to be a great thrower of the football, throwing it 50 times a game, or win the game? Throwing it 30 times a game. I would hope you would pick win the game. And so that's just kind of what I saw. And, you know, it's shown that the Jets, if you haul off and just want to throw it deep or make some bad throws, like it's not working. And I know 2 of them were picked, but obviously nobody keeps track of that unless or everybody keeps track of it unless you're Dak Prescott. And then, you know, none of them were picked and they were basically handed to the defensive backs. And so I will say his last pick was very bad. That ended up costing him the game. But just to touch on the 2 teams, Jets defense is still good. Team's still good. I think with the quarterback they have now, and it's going to sound kind of contradictory to some of the other quarterbacks we talked about, I think he just needs to play to not lose the game. Okay. If you don't screw up, I think it's very similar to like when Cooper Rush played for the Cowboys. Don't screw up, high percentage throws. We don't need you to just go nuts on us all the time. Be smart with the football. And yeah, if, you know, it opens up, swing it. But it just seems like that defense is going to win them games. Wilson, we just need you not to lose games. And so I think I kind of touched on it earlier with the Eagles. I think they lose track of their identity and they run the football, and not just running it with the running backs. Jalen Hurts can obviously run the football very well. He can control where the defense tries to scheme them. And, you know, if they scheme wrong and he gets room to run, he could beat you quick. And so I think they lose that identity. And they're forcing the passing agenda. I think the RPO and that kind of offense and those techniques, they run it perfectly, and it seems like they get away from it so quickly. And then my last point is A.J. Brown is still a dog. I think I've talked about the Eagles like the last 4 weeks, and A.J. Brown just keeps putting up these ridiculous numbers. That's kind of my take on that game. I called it a little, I guess you'd call it a trap game, but pretty sure the Jets are 4-2. And so, I mean, they're not a bad team, and they've won a couple now with Zach Wilson. So what are your takes on it? What do you think about the Eagles and the Jets?
Yeah, it's just 2 or 3 quick points. You know, you hit it on the nail with them being a different ball club with Breece Hall in the mix off a snap count. You know, even though he wasn't affected on the ground, he was very effective through the air. And of course, whenever you get Garrett Wilson involved, great things happen. And like you said, if you're Zach Wilson, try not to make a mistake, you know, like a stupid, you know, be conservative. I think Jets would be really happy if you were holding back on those dicey throws, but you were taking deep shots when they were, you know, you got the protection necessary and you get your look. And then of course with Jalen Hurts, let's do a little sports science here. His arm talent does not complement with throwing the ball 45 times a game. It just doesn't. You know, having Dak who doesn't have the most rocket arm in the league, throw 50 times a game makes 0 sense. It's not, like you said, it's a perfect way to put it. It's not the winning formula. But if you have Dak throwing 30 times a game, you know, hey, you probably ran the ball good, game management, very efficient, no mistakes, probably win the game. And then, of course, guys like the gunslingers is my final point. Those gunslingers, they can throw it many times as they want because that's their identity. That's their winning formula, like Josh Allen. But either he's cooking or he's not, like we saw against the Giants. But yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, good points. Good points. Definitely, I think it's you hit it on the head with like, hey, take your shots, but like, you know, don't force it. You got single coverage and it's Garrett Wilson on a guy. Yeah, take that shot. Nobody's going to be mad at that. But I think you hit it perfectly. But next, we'll lead into the Lions versus Bucks. I called the winner, but not the game. I thought this is definitely going to be a better game than this. This game kind of sucked. And I don't know, hot take, not hot take right here, but I have Goff written down. This year, he's playing like a top 10 QB. Like he's playing kind of out of his mind. You know, he's got, whether he's got St. Brown, whether he's got Laporta in there healthy or anything like that. He's looked good, and he's really played like a top 10 quarterback. And if he keeps it up, it's crazy because, you know, he's kind of, you know, all what is it, Toy Story Woody, I don't want to play with you anymore kind of thing, and was thrown over to the Lions and kind of, played on a bad team, and they've gotten better, and he's gotten a weapon or two, and he looks like Jared Goff when the Rams were good. And so I think that was kind of my biggest takeaway on this is like Jared Goff, he's good. That's a good QB. On the contrary, Baker was bad. And I think he came out and said it to the media. He's like, hey, we played like shit. I played like shit. The whole team looked like shit or something like that. And I was like, well, you're right. And so it was a 20-6 win. Yeah, it was a 20-6 win. Lions, I was impressed by the Lions defense. I didn't think they were going to be as well. Aiden Hutchinson is, he's a baller. He seems very, per se, Bosa, Watt, Parsons type, to where like it seems like when they need somebody to make a play, he's like, all right, let's go, and he makes it.
He's a dog. He's an absolute dog.
Yeah, and he just seems to be just an absolute disruptor, especially in like the passing game. Third and long, it's like, hey, you've got somebody chip blocking him, he gets past it. You got two people doubling him, he's crashing them, bull rushing them down. You need a swing route, somebody to go chase somebody down. Seems like he's doing it. He seems like the real deal. And it's just funny seeing someone like that play for Dan Campbell because, they probably get into wrestling matches in the locker room or something like that just because they're a bunch of weirdos and whatnot. But
I want everybody to line up, okay? Yeah. Everybody line up. Who gets the game snuffed, okay? I got a skull right here, and we're going to see who can swallow the most skull.
Yeah, it's definitely a Liver King vibe in there, eating, straight hearts and bones and drinking bone marrow for fun or something like that. So, but another note, hey, Lions, I did not call this 5-1. I think if we go back to the beginning, I said the Lions are going to win against the Chiefs and then roll off 5 losses, and then we're like, how did the Chiefs lose to the Lions?
Yeah.
Well, I was wrong there. So where the med guy was wrong, was right there. And they look good. They're a top team. I'll say a little bit more about them later in the pod. But they're something nice. So what do you have on this game?
Yeah, I'm proud of the Lions. Good for them. I'm a fan of what they're doing down there. They got a bunch of hard-nosed football players. They even through injuries with like Jahmyr Gibbs. I believe Amon-Ra St. Brown was banged up last week and could have possibly been banged up this week. I can't remember. Sorry if I'm wrong on that. But, they've been – Jared Goff, I've been saying this since the beginning of last year. He's a great quarterback, good to great quarterback. I get a little ahead of myself there, but I like a guy whose name is Jared. But, the guy has just been efficient ever since he left the Rams. And you look – if you're a rookie stat guy, you're looking at stats side by side with Stafford and Goff and saying Goff is better. I understand why the Rams traded for Stafford, but the Lions did not lose that trade. They really got a fantastic franchise quarterback, and I see him staying there for a long time. And of course, this defense is coming to its own despite injuries at the beginning of the year. 5-1, huh? Let's see if the Bucks can maybe bounce back. The NFC South is wide open.
That division's booty cheeks, man. They suck.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. It seems like you're covering the Lions this year, and I'm covering the Saints. It just seems to keep coming up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now get us over to this next shit game, the 49ers versus the Browns. This might be the worst uniform color clash I have ever seen. When I watched this on my screen, I was like, yo, something's got it. Like, there's not like a white jersey. I guess that sounds bad. There's not like a white jersey or like a mix of something. It's like, hey, we're going to go with our primary colors, red and gold, orange and black. And it was like, not a good scheme. I was like, oh, this sucks, dude.
Yeah. The color combo looked like Roger Goodell flew the Goodyear blimp over the top of the stadium and had a Taco Bell shit all over the stadium.
Yeah, dude.
And it was spread out diarrhea, which made all the 11 on 11 players go out there. I mean, all the colors, red, gold, brown, and white. You know, you ate some type of onion cheeseburger from McDonald's, and those are the uniform combinations you get. But, you know, on the contrary, besides shitting, rain shitting from the sky, this game had God written all over it. Purdy, the Christ-loving athlete, versus the Cleveland Convicts. Only God saved Purdy for what looked like to be a game-winning field goal until, in my opinion, Moody announced to his teammates prior to the snap that he was pro-Palestine, and he missed the field goal. So, Moody, shame on you, you mother effer. You know, 49ers, they were without, obviously, you know, Christian McCaffrey, Debo, Trent Williams, and that translated into Brock Purdy struggling, which proves that their identity, which it's always been, which is why we are ahead of the curve once again with Brock Purdy, is that their identity is run first, and that their pass comes through the run, and that their routes come from the running game. They're just hybrid. It's just a hybridity scheme. But we're not going to see much of Purdy getting this kind of performance because their roster's so stacked. He's pretty much protected. But what people are forgetting is that, well, I guess what they seem to be missing, I guess, is Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb weren't in this game, and you lost to PJ Walker.
Walker,
the
XFL stud,
right? Like, and I thought it was Taylor Heineke that was the XFL stud. Well, I was wrong. I forgot that the NFL has a chosen race, and PJ Walker went out there and shat all over the 49ers. So props to him, outstanding performance. And what I mean by that is not to say that he played incredible, but he did what he needed to do, which is the only way to beat the 49ers defense is take what they give you, which isn't much. And hey, 19 points, you know, you scratch a dub 19-17 here, with even if they get this field goal, is an outstanding defensive performance by the Cleveland Browns, and it's legit. It's a top 10 defense, and I think it's a lot like the Lions. You know, they're not going to be a top 5 defense, but week to week, they're going to, or throughout the whole season, they're going to contain a top 10 ranking. And then the last couple touches on the Browns is Amari Cooper. He continues to remind us Cowboys fans how much we and Dak miss him. Dak played his best ball with Amari Cooper. Yeah. He had a fantastic game and showed us why he's one of the best route runners in the league when he gets the ball in his hands. And according to reports, the rapist is returning this week for week 7. So we'll see how Deshaun Watson comes back or if he lost his job to PJ Walker. But any quick comments, and then we'll get into our Sunday Night Football recap and predictions.
Only quick things I have to say is the Browns averaged almost 5 yards a carry against that stellar defense with Jerome Ford and Kareem off the street hunt. And then Amari Cooper had a crazy good game, but where did they attack the 49ers defense? On the boundaries and deep.
They probably learned from us.
Yeah, they probably watched and were like, hey, don't throw it over the middle. Probably won't work too well. And, you know, they came out with a win. But, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like, man, you take all the weapons away from a quarterback, and what does he become? Average, below average. Crazy. So,
mid.
Yeah.
Well, let's touch up on the Giants-Bills game. I mean, you sarcastically called this game in the previous pod. I mean, we expected like 35-plus points from from the Bills, and what we got was another shit bowl type of game with a limited Saquon Barkley, a Tyrod Taylor, who didn't play horrible. I don't know. It just was boring. And to be honest, I did not watch most of this game, so I don't really want to comment too much on it because we were watching the Rangers-Astros game. Because we thought that this game was in the bag. So I only caught the last 2 possessions of the game, to which I would say that, one, yes, it was a penalty before the last play that got him to the 1, correct? And then it was let him play. And so I think the refs did a decent job there. Yes, there was a tug, but you're also that's your play is you're only throwing to one guy. It was like a Tennessee Titans call.
Yeah.
They might as well just let Saquon Barkley throw that ball. It just, I don't know. It's not the best play call. And I thought the Giants played a decent game, but I think it spoke even more that the Bills played a shittier one. And maybe it's that Brian Daboll knows how Sean McDermott thinks and was able to contradict Josh Allen's offensive scheme, which is, like I've said, is run around the playground and just chunk the ball 35,000 yards, and they usually win ball games like that. But their last point, the Bills are extremely streaky. I would say they're a lot like the Cowboys, where Cowboys will hit a streak and then they'll look like absolute dog crap one game, and then they'll remind you the next game how good they are. So whoever the Bills play next week, unless it's a bye, expect them to get routed. They did the same thing to Miami a couple weeks back.
Yeah. I watched a little bit of this game. Biggest takeaways I have is that we jokingly called a boring game. Even though we were like, yeah, they're going to score, like you said, they're going to score 35. It's not even close. We jokingly said like, 10-9 Giants. And then it ended up being really close and a terrible game to watch. Three biggest points I have are Giants time management, mishaps, I guess, miscues. I don't know if you saw that, but before half, PJ Walker, I don't know what it's coming out that Tyrod Taylor. He checked down to a run play with no timeouts left and 8 seconds left on the clock. And it's just like, I mean, you saw, and I kind of have a little bit of respect for Daboll, because you've seen multiple times, like, he's getting in his players' faces. Like, yeah, I think it kind of shows a lot as a head coach to, like, hey, you messed up, like, letting these people know, like, what are you doing? Because you don't see a lot of coaches just, like, get after players. It's usually a coordinator or an assistant or an analyst or whatever. You just don't see the head coach necessarily just get after a player after messing up. But that happened, and then there was another time management miscue that happened towards the end of the game as well. But yeah, they had a chance to win. They kicked that field goal at halftime. It's 12-14, and you have a chance to win the game kicking a field goal in the fourth quarter. And then second point, it just seemed like the Bills were kind of sleepwalking, kind of like they thought they were just going to do whatever they want, and then it didn't happen. But props to the Giants defense. They played well enough to keep them in the game, and honestly, well enough to win the game. So that was kind of my takeaway from that. And then the third was penalties. Similar to the Cowboys game, there's so many penalties. I think there were 15 for like 140, 150 yards. And so it's just like, that's a tough scene to be a part of, is to have, I mean, obviously I get called the penalties when they need to be called, but like you said, it seemed like we're going to call a penalty and get them down to the one and then not call it when they have it happen this way. It's like, can we pick a side? Like, because how it looks right there, it's like, you see how they call it the play before, and then they don't call it the second time when they're in the end zone, and all we talk about is like missed call. But you call it in the end zone, and then or you don't call it that first one, and then everybody's talking about like, whoa, missed call, like they should be down at the one. It's like the refs just got to figure it out. To me, it just gets disheartening to watch a game and know that, like, well, here's a ref. Like, you can't tell, you can't do this, you can't do that. Helmet to helmet, roughing the quarterback. Like, we saw it in the Dallas game. It was brutal. Yeah,
it started to get aggravating, and that's to the kid's point. Is he said, I hate it when the refs have a hand in the game and they, cause an outcome that like they have a large hand in the bowl, basically, and taking a lot of candy out the basket. Because it's like you mentioned with the Cowboys Chargers game and this one, it gets aggravating. But the main thing for umpires and NFL refs is to stay consistent. If you're going to call a little a washy-wash, ticky-tack, the DPI down the field, then you need to call it later in the game as well.
Yeah.
And because then you're gonna get a bunch of complaints. If you're gonna call blatant DPIs or OPIs or whatever, then you need to call blatant DPIs in the second half too. It's all about consistency, because you got to set the tone as a ref, just like as a team. Oh, that's the way they're going to call it. Okay, I can't pitch on the outside part of the plate right there. What about lower? What about higher? What about towards the, okay, he likes that spot. He's not going to call it. They're going to be calling defensive holding on defensive line this game. Got it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
you got to get a read on the refs, and the refs got to recognize that they got to stick with the tone.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree.
Let's get into our predictions for the Sunday Night Football game. We're just going to do a little score prediction and why, and then we'll move into the rest of our predictions. We've got the Dolphins versus the Eagles. I can't remember who's at home or away this game, but I think it's the same as us. I think we play – it might be reversed. I want to say the Jets – I'm sorry, the Eagles, I want to say they're playing in Miami.
It is in Philly.
Okay, it's in Philly. Crappy performance versus the Jets. High-powered offense. I think Tua, if he can avoid the pass rush, he can expose the secondary. I've got.
You want to know the spread?
Yeah. Well, tell me what the spread is first.
Yeah, it's -2 Philly.
All right. Well, I might as well go with my other predictions. I've got the Dolphins 25, the Eagles 22.
Oh, we were close. Yeah. I kind of agree with you. But the Eagles have to control the game, and they can't let this be a shootout. I just don't see that's not their way to win, and that is the Dolphins' way to win. Front seven have to be crazy good. And then Dolphins' point of view is you've got to make Jalen throw it, take away the run game, do whatever you got to do. And then honestly, at this point, you got to put 2 over A.J. Brown, or else he's going to shred you.
Yeah.
And so that it just seems like he's been the one kind of safe. What was the word you used for Dalton Schultz? It wasn't
safety net.
Safety net, but it's a safety net for 8 catches for 170 yards. It seems like anytime he throws it to him, it's like 15 plus yards and whatnot. So, but I've got the Dolphins as well. I got the Dolphins 24, Eagles 17. I think it's going to be close, but I think ultimately it's not necessarily the shootout we think about, because when I think of a shootout, I go straight to like Big 12 shootout, 54-52, TCU versus Baylor back in the day. And like a 24-17 game is a pretty decent shootout. And so I think it's going to be close, but I don't think there's going to be any cover or anything like that. So
yeah, and the Dolphins can easily blow this one out. I think the main point here is, and it's no knock against the Eagles here for our predictions, I just don't think the Eagles team complements well with the Dolphins scheme. And I think that's why we kind of both think that the Dolphins might get a dub here.
Well, the secondary for the Eagles is just ravaged, man. And it's like, I just do not see them covering Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle all game. And I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, me neither. All right. Moving on to our next predicted game, we got the Jaguars versus the Saints. Jags are 4-2. Saints are 3-3. Of course, I'm covering the Saints. -3.
Guess what I'm covering?
The Lions.
Yeah, there we go.
-3, New Orleans. I've got the Jaguars 27, Saints 20. I really don't understand why the spread is favored for the Saints here. But New Orleans does not cover the spread. Saints are poorly coached, like I mentioned before. The offense is struggling to get in the end zone, let alone, just positive yardage, net yardage in the red zone. And Carr looks extremely average, like I've mentioned. Jags are humming, though. Peterson is scheming and improving this offense, and ETN is elevating their ground game. He's had 2 incredible fantasy weeks. So expect him to have a decent game. I would say more in the air than on the ground, kind of get you that 13 to 15 point range. I don't think the problems for New Orleans will be solved in 3 days. That's for sure, because this is a Thursday night football game. You just had this back-to-back kind of atrocious performances, and you're going straight into Thursday Night Football with little preparation against a really good humming Jaguars team. So I think either the Saints somehow fix it or the Jaguars easily win this game comfortably.
Yeah, and the reason the spread is for the Saints is because Trevor Lawrence dinged his knee up a little bit and he's questionable. That's
right.
That's gonna be the only reason it's for the Saints, which I don't even know who the backup is for. Is it Bethard or whatever? I have no clue who the backup is for the Jaguars.
I'm gonna check on it because I want to know.
Yeah.
We should have a printed out list of backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, I cannot remember who the backup quarterback is, but I know that's probably. I would assume that's the reason is because they don't know if Lawrence is going to play yet.
Yeah,
and that would make more sense, I guess. But Blake Bortles, is he still the?
No, he's on part of my team.
Okay. Did you find it? Or
hey, move on to the next game. I'm gonna get it. It's kind of taking a minute.
All right, cool. Well, I'll lead us on to the next game. I got Monday Night Football, 49ers, Vikings. The spread is -7, San Francisco. Biggest takeaway I have for this is it's just going to be depending on who's healthy. I mean, we obviously know that Jetta's not healthy for the Vikings, so they're having to roll with Addison and KJ Osborne and whatnot. And then, TJ Hawkinson's going to have to be basically that number one receiver. The Vikings, depending on who's healthy for the San Francisco 49ers as well. I mean, they had 3 huge contributors to their offense get hurt, and it's going to be interesting to see how, Brock Purdy plays if he doesn't have those weapons. And so, CMC got dinged up, left tackle got dinged up, Debo got hit or got a shoulder hit pretty good. And I think they're all questionable this week, so it's going to depend on that big time. Biggest takeaways right here is the Vikings kind of have nothing to lose. I think if they keep it close and force Purdy to win the game and not let him just game manage and not mess up, it's going to be an interesting game. It's really hard for me to pick the Vikings because it's primetime Cousins again. I hate that he has that bad rep, but it's just kind of what it's looked like. And so right now I've got San Francisco 30. I got the Vikings 24 because I think at this point the Vikings are just going to keep slinging it. They might be down 30 in the second quarter, but the second half, you already know Kirk Cousins is going to come out and let that thing eat.
Kirk go banging.
He could throw 4 picks, but he's going to go, 40 for 52 with 400 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns as well. So that's kind of what I have on that. You got any takes on that nice Monday Night Football game?
No, and I'll get to him in the Rooks looks with one of my stardom situms. So be aware for that. But I found out the Jaguars backups are Nathan Rourke and CJ Beathard. So CJ Beathard is correct, but I'm not sure if he's 2 or 3 on the depth chart.
Never heard of that other guy in my life.
Nathan Rourke, I believe. I don't believe this is the same guy that had that crazy play against us in the preseason.
I don't know. He's going to be like some Montana State, like snuck through. Like I have never heard of that guy before.
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's I believe he's a Canadian Football League player, former.
Oh, wow.
Yes, he looked pretty solid. A passer and a rusher against Dallas. He was dropped by the Jaguars, waived by the Jaguars, re-signed by the Jaguars practice squad, and he's still on the practice squad apparently. So, so it is Beathard. He's the emergency quarterback. Rourke is.
Gotcha.
All right. So 49ers 30-24, and then what you got for the Lions Ravens?
So next, I got the Lions Ravens. Got the Dirty Birds, the other Dirty Birds, and the Jungle Cats. And the spread is -3 Ravens. I really thought that was interesting. I really did not expect it to be in favor of the Ravens and whatnot. I know they've kind of won some games. They've played close games outside of like one. I think the Bengals was a blowout or something earlier in the year when Joe Burrow couldn't put his foot flat on the ground. And so I thought that really surprised me because there's not really like a big injury. Amon-Ra St. Brown is obviously healthy. Laporta is still pretty healthy. I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is that much of a game changer, but who knows? But it's gonna be interesting. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see the Lions against the top defense. I don't think they've played one since. I mean, you call it the Chiefs' defense has looked pretty decent all year, and so that's the last top-notch defense they've played. So it's gonna be interesting to see them against Harbaugh's defense. Another big take is can Lamar's wide receivers catch? If they can catch, this is going to be a pretty good game. If they cannot, they will lose. I think regardless, this is going to be one of those games where we see vintage Lamar, running around and then, making these just crazy elusive plays and getting out of the pocket. And you're just like, oh, that's where Lamar made his money and stuff like that. I think he's going to kind of let it loose on this, big game between two good teams in the NFL. And then last one, I think this is going to be a statement game for Goff too. I talked about him playing like a top 10 quarterback, kind of making a statement that he is. This is going to be another one against a top defense. I know, kind of consider the Bucs a top defense, but they look like doo-doo. Granted, the offense didn't complement any of that, but I think it's going to be a big statement game for Goff to see. Hey, is he 5 to 8 or is he 9 to 12 in the top 10 range, top 10, top 12. But for this game, I've got the Lions. I'm going to go Lions 24, and I don't see Justin Tucker. If they bring it within 3, it's not going to happen. So I'm going to go 24. I'm going to go weird score, 24-18 Lions.
There you go. Yeah, and I actually think a little differently on this game. I think this defense will do a fantastic job of not allowing Lamar to escape the pocket. I think he'll struggle finding his receivers. I think he'll find a lot of Mark Andrews, and I think this would be a Justin Tucker field goal them to death sort of game. Maybe a touchdown or two. I think 18's right around the range that I have the Ravens scoring, but I think this is a chance for Goff to prove it, like you mentioned. I've got the Lions 23, the Ravens 16.
Nice. Yeah,
all right.
It's going to be an interesting game. For some reason, it feels like this one's going to end up being a shit game to me. I don't know why, but it's just
a lot of Ravens games end up that way. I don't know why, but the Lions, they don't really care how they win as long as they win. So
yeah.
And that's a good thing to have in the NFL. So, all right. Moving on to our 325 game of the week. 2-3 Chargers versus 5-1 Chiefs. Spread is -5.5 for the Kansas City Chiefs. I've got the Chiefs winning this game 26-24. I don't think Kansas City covers the spread. And I think it's kind of funny. All of my takes are not covering the spread. So truly shattering the script here. But a couple of interesting stuff for you guys, because I know you're probably wondering what their head-to-head matchup is. The Chargers versus Chiefs, last 10 matchups. So the Chargers are 3-7 against the Chiefs. Most games have been one possession games from what I found on my research. Game management by Brandon Staley, I think in this game will demoralize the Chargers late. He kind of he's the new Jason Garrett. So I really don't think he's going to outcoach Anthony Reid, no matter how crappy Mahomes plays. I think somehow or some way the Chargers will do something silly and Andy Reid will come out on top. But Chiefs get some bailout games. If Taylor Swift shows up, it's a guaranteed dub for Kansas City as well. So, and this is it's either at home in Kansas City or it's in California, which two prime spots for them to showcase her new stupid ass movie. And yeah, whatever. I don't even want to talk about her. But
I'm pretty sure I saw a video of you in one of those dance circles at the theater. Wasn't that you?
That was The Bachelor.
Okay.
Yeah, but also if you want to have a good time, you can just type in Taylor Swift X Kelsey and Reddit, and they have some cool stuff on there. So yeah, Chiefs 26, Chargers 24.
Nice. Yeah. That sounds like it. For some reason, without even looking up any of those stats, that sounds like a Chiefs Chargers game. Like,
yes,
on the head.
A lot like last year's.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to bet on it. All right. The segment our crowd always waits for, tracking the boys segment. Recap of the previous game, obviously, and then we're going into the bye week. But the Cowboys win 20-17. Now, I want to apologize to the audience because I have the video up and ready to go for smoking that pack. So I'm going to play it on my phone because you can hear the audio. So if you're listening, you get the experience. And I'll just kind of see if I can. Here we go.
Yeah, get the thing going. You can't hear it.
Can't hear it.
There you go.
All right. Let's try it again. Cut. Back to one.
Yeah.
Under Roos. Smoking that card.
You hear a little bit.
Whatever. Who gives a shit? I'll just post it on the Instagram.
There we go.
Thanks, Ryan, for the content. Sorry, guys, I didn't have that up and ready to go. I had the Shatter the Script one, but not this one. That's on me. I'm standing on business here.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
I thought when ESPN said stuff that was popular, and today it made it non-popular. So they posted something saying standing on business, and I was like, well, there went standing on business. You know, when like Schefter started gritty in and all that, it was like, okay, that shit sucks now.
Yeah, when Shefty grittied, we knew that racism was not over; it was just now beginning.
Yeah, when like Dabo did something, it's just like, yeah, get this shit out of here. We're not doing this anymore.
Yeah, the NIL.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sorry about that video, fellas, but all right, 20-17, Cowboys get the dub on Monday Night Football. We'll start with the offense, translate to the defense, and then we'll flip into Dak on track with the passing chart and our letter grade. I'll start this one off with some offensive talk here. Obviously, the elephant in the room, the play calling is still an issue for the Dallas Cowboys, and it's not a small one, it's a big one. And I think it has to do with predictability. And a lot of these run pass scenarios here, very conservative, held back. Our average third down during this game was 7.6 yards. And so basically you're asking in those scenarios, Dak, please bail us out. And you're in these for sure passing scenarios where the defense knows exactly what's coming because, well, these dumbasses wouldn't run it 3 times in a row, would they? So it's very Scott Linehan-ish lately, and that needs to improve. And it's not acceptable, honestly, for the roster that we have. And I'm starting with the negatives. I'll get into the positives, but I don't want to take all the points. Gallup, he can't get separation anymore. I don't know why Dallas intends on throwing him slant routes when his primary physique allows him to make acrobatic plays over the sideline, not run slants. I believe our slot guy is CD Lamb. So I don't know why that seems to be coming from the house. But 3 receptions out of 10 targets. He was the highest targeted wide receiver out of our wide receiver group, which is beyond me, even though CD Lamb had a fantastic game. And like I mentioned earlier, very conservative offense, heavily condensed. There's no pre-snap motion activity or movement. Very mid game management as well. And the last thing I have to say about the offense is the primary issues revolve around Mike McCarthy for this offense. The players are honestly executing fairly well. So yeah, but that kind of wraps up most of what I have to say about the offense, and I'll let you, counter with some other opinions that you may have on the offense, and maybe I can finish off with some of the positive analysis of this offense.
Yeah, man, I agree with you with basically all of that. thought Dak looked great. He was basically in save me mode. And so it's kind of a joke. Like when I played baseball my second year at UC Tyler, I was the oh shit guy. So basically, like when things were going wrong or about to go wrong or whatever, it was like, Clark, get hot, blah, blah, blah. It's like, bases loaded, no outs. It's like, all right, get us out of this. It's like anytime you went, oh shit, it was like I was getting hot on the mound. And so that's where it felt like last night that Dak was in like oh shit mode due to the lack of just productive play calling, man. And just not to go into too much of that because they did win and it was a good game. But I mean, you already spoke on it. It was just like everybody from their house was watching, like, what are they doing? Right. Like, the first drive, the middle of the field's open. We're moving Dak in and out. We're doing all these things. Second drive, sorry. First drive was terrible. Second drive, it was like, oh, wow, Dak can throw the ball deep down the middle. We can do this. We can run to the left and right of the center and not straight up his ass. And so that just seemed just mind-boggling. Like, what are we doing? But that was kind of my negatives right there. The play calling on offense just seemed dumb because it's like, hey, we're doing this thing that works, and then it's like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do something else. And it didn't even get conservative to me. It just got just repetitive, unproductive. Like you could be conservative and still be productive. Well, like you said, like run, pass.
Streaky. It was just like, it was one drive, we're going to push the ball on the field. The second drive, it was like, I think we'd rather be on defense. Like, it was very strange. Or it was, okay, run, pass. Oh, punt it away. Oh, crap. What the hell is that? Get the ball back. Pass, run, screens, quick slants, deep intermediate throws, touchdown. You're like, why not do? The identity, a lot like it's been the last 3 years, just shifts every drive, and it's not good for an offense.
And it's kind of going to my point. Like last week, it's like, you go in with a game plan and like, this works or this doesn't work, but it was obvious that Dak was on last night. And it's hey, like he's on. Like even his, like I have it written down. I don't think he made a bad throw. He might have missed or a little off, but if you go and look at the tape, like he really wasn't. And he did not have many bad decisions or anything last night. It's like you see that, you gotta be like, hey, this dude, like we gotta go. Just like if Pollard was getting 7 yards a clip, or if our O-line was just destroying up front and we're just marching down the field, you're not gonna sit here and be like, oh, we're gonna stop running the ball. No, you're gonna hand the damn ball off. You're gonna run the damn ball. And so that's just what I didn't get is like you could see like, oh, dude, this is working. Oh, it's obvious we can attack the middle of the field. Oh, we can do this. But then do it. But to go into other things, CD looked great. It was awesome to see him run just different routes. Middle of the field, outside the field, behind the line of scrimmage, whatever. It just shows like he can do that if you let him do it. But if you want him to be slant boy or stop route or one or a three route tree, then you're going to see what's going to happen. It's not going to be very good. I think Tolbert needs to get more reps. I don't know. It seemed like for the last 3 games, Gallup looked fine, and then it was like he didn't look great at all. Separation was bad. Couldn't jump.
2 touchdown passes.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it seemed like his skill set is like it's going to be, he's on somebody's head, doing stuff like that, or like getting the ball behind the line of scrimmage and running somebody over. Or if it is a slant route, it's going to be like, hey, the dude's playing off, then we're going to hit him on the slant. He's creating no separation.
No.
So I think Tolbert needs to get more reps, especially if the route absolutely consists on getting separation. It just seems like he's got more in the bag than Gallup.
Gallup thrives in scenarios. He's a boundary receiver who thrives in scenarios where he doesn't have separation on the deep ball. Like you said, getting on top of people's helmets, mossing people, toe tapping the sideline. That's his identity. It's not slants catching the ball in the middle of the field. And it's mind-boggling that he's that guy that we're using for that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you said the stat, like he had 10 targets and only 3 catches. It was like, what are we doing?
Well, that goes into I wanted to mention earlier was I think he might have finished it like this, but Dak was 16 of 16 at some point, throwing it to CD Lamb and Cooks, and all of his incompletions came from throwing it to Gallup.
Yeah. At one point, it was absolutely like that. It was, I think he had one incompletion to the tight end, the third string tight end for some reason was out there to catch pass.
Drop.
And then the one to Pollard that you could say he might have missed a little bit on that, but he made a good throw. Ooh. And the rest were Gallup. And it's like, why are we not feeding? Like they call him the number 2. I just don't see how Cooks is not your number 2. Like Cooks has to be your number 2. And he showed in this last game, like he can catch a contested ball. Like everybody, like, yeah, he's not a monster like CD or Gallup, but like dude's not decrepit. Like he can make a play. Like throw the ball up to him. Like, please. What are we doing? But my last 2 points, I thought the O-line actually looked okay. I know there was a lot of heat, but you got to remember, I mean, the 2 people rushing right there were Bosa and then Khalil Mack. Like those dudes aren't jokes. Like
no,
I'd say it's very similar to what Dallas has rushing on the other side with D-Law and Parsons. You've got someone who's, more of a bull rush strength guy, even though Khalil Mack wasn't always that. He's still really good. I don't think there's any team out there would be like, no, we don't want Khalil Mack. Like, okay. And then you have Joey Bosa, who is, more the speed finesse rusher. And so with those 2 coming at you, you can't expect the line to just hold up all day, especially with how much we were having to throw it and how little the run game was effective. So, and then like you said, overcoming bad coaching, whether it be play calling, whether it be time management, decision, even what your face looked like on the sideline, like it was just all bad. So I didn't like that. But that's kind of my segment on the highlights on the offense. I'll let you get into whatever you want to say positive about the offense, if you want to say positive, and then let you transition into the defense.
Yeah, I kind of was mentioning about the positive stuff about the offense was, Dak being, 16 of 16, thrown to Lamb and Cooks, which is a positive sign. Cooks found the end zone, which I thought was great. Dak finally pulled a read option on 4th and 1 in a very clutch moment for about a 20-yard score, which was very, very electric. It set the tone for the game, and it made them, respect his running capabilities. And this is the most mobile, and this is kind of, I guess, a hybrid Dak on track take. This is the most mobile I've seen Dak Prescott play in a long time, and I was so happy to see it because he was cooking. I mean, his mobility and durability in the pocket, it really showed and reminded me, and hopefully others, the kid, that he can do a lot of that stuff in the pocket. But when there's no need to escape the pocket, there's no need to escape the pocket. It's called being a veteran. So him being able to showcase that and his athleticism and to move around the pocket, get outside the hashes and make, incredible, great throws on 3rd down. He's a number 3 or 2 quarterback on 3rd down through 6 weeks this week. So props to Dak on a phenomenal performance, and as well as CD Lamb. Moving on to the defense. I just want to touch on a couple quick points. I really don't have much negative to say about this defense besides the penalties. The penalties were all over the place, and I don't know if this was just because that was the officiating crew, like we mentioned earlier, with the consistency. They were consistent, a little too consistent, I would say. But it was very aggravating to just watch. I mean, we've seen enough yellow on the Chargers jerseys to see more yellow on our TV screens. We even saw I cannot say that. But anyways, the secondary was playing You might have known where I was going with that, but
yeah, that's
okay.
great.
God, man, I don't have any fear of being canceled, but I think that would have been
no. They got no. They got to twist that. You're fine. That was a good one.
God. That's hilarious, though. I think people can read between the lines there, but
yeah.
Secondary was playing comfortably off the ball, like 5 to 10 yards back most of the game. It would have felt like keeping receivers in front, playing a bend don't break mentality. I thought I got some comments from about Darren Bland saying that he played really good. I disagree. I thought he struggled to guard Keenan Allen, but who doesn't? So kind of a passive aggressive, constructive criticism there. But to the secondary's credit, they made fantastic plays when it counted the most. Of course, Stephon Gilmore with that interception at the end of the ball game, Micah Parsons with the sack on the final drive as well. Darren Bland with the diving stop in the end zone on 4th down. Just some critical moments where our critical players made critical plays. And so that's kind of what I got for. I mean, I want to comment on Marquise Bell and I guess the what was I going to say? Marquise Bell and something about the secondary, but I don't want to take away your points because I know you probably have something on Marquise Bell, and I'll let you cover the rest of the defense.
Yeah, absolutely, man. But I think a lot of the things you said, I definitely agree with. Again, I have written down defense played good enough to win. I think it was obvious we could have had multiple turnovers. There was multiple, even that diving stop in the end zone, like he, it hit both of his hands. I know we did have the Stephon Gilmore a pick, but Deron Bland also, he dropped a house call. However, I think there was a really good game for the defense because it shows like, hey, y'all are still good even if you don't absolutely dominate an offense. Like you're not gonna, like I know Hunter talks about like they go as far as the defense goes. Like not every time you're gonna come out and give up 3 points. Like this is a game, and I think Deron Bland in the secondary, depending on how this was schemed, I think they did play very good, depending on how it was schemed. In my mind, I have it written down. I think they played more of a bend, don't break mentality. What does Kellen Moore's offense do? Run up the scoreboard, tempo, move the ball, push the ball.
Yeah, saw a lot of that.
Now there were a couple missed plays by Justin Herbert, and there were a lot of bad penalties and whatnot. However, it seemed like the Cowboys didn't really give up the big play. I know one was missed, but at the same time, just how you can harp on some quarterbacks, not every quarterback's going to make every throw. And so I think that mentality into these games where these teams have these high-flying offenses, and I think it's going to be kind of a tell sign for how a lot of people play the Chargers with this defense, with this offense, is it's going to be more of a bend, don't break. Don't give up the big plays. Make them really work for a touchdown. And I think it's going to end up, just like, how the Cowboys did is, they made big stops, especially in the red zone. Another thing I have one kind of to your point is timing plays. It seemed like the defense made some real clutch plays in big time situations, right? Yeah. I know you named a couple of them, and those are kind of what I'm thinking of is like when we needed them, they showed up. Okay. We didn't need like the Parsons sack, the Deron Bland in the end zone, the Stephon Gilmore. We don't need 4 picks every game and 2 returns for a touchdown, but showing up, making the big plays when you need to. I mean, that's just complimentary football like we talk. And so I have that written down, timing plays, making the plays when you need to. Yep. Doesn't have to be every time. And then I have Bell and Osa written down as like 2 of my players that I think have been kind of hidden from all the other stars we have on the defense. I think Osa Adigizua, or however you say his name, I think he's been great, especially on Passing downs up front. I think he's one of those that gets a lot more pressure on passing downs, more so than running downs and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think he's kind of been an unsung hero up the middle. Bell played out of his mind last night. And I think he's going to be that one that steps up in that linebacker spot or hybrid or whatever you want to call his position. And then lastly, the penalties. That was a joke. The penalties, I think they were like 17 for like 170 yards. Like, that's a joke to me. You got to change that. And I mean, it was both ways. I mean, the roughing the passer on Dak was atrocious. That shouldn't have been called. There was no contact. Just as the same on the roughing the passer or hitting a defenseless runner or whatever on Herbert. I mean, I think it's a joke of a call that you have a guy that's running for and trying to get a first down and can get to that point and just absolutely collapse. You hit his head, boom, that's a penalty. It's like, okay. It's like, what do you want us to do? Just like front flip, tuck roll over him, like, and set the other people up for injury. And so now
read their mind.
If it's egregious, like, obviously you get it, but like literally it's a bang bang play and you get next to them and they just absolutely go down, and then all of a sudden I'm a contact flag. And I just think the penalties in this game that was an absolute joke.
Yeah. And to your point, the 5 highest graded Cowboys in week 6, according to PFF, you mentioned Osa, number 1, 92.1 rating. You mentioned Marquise Bell, 91.3. And then, of course, DeMarcus Lawrence, the edge player, 91.0, followed by Dak at 90 and Micah Parsons at 89.6. Marquise Bell, terrible. Take away his gold cleats. But Marquise Bell, dude, he's a dog. That dude, he played. I like the guys that haven't been paid yet. Let's just say that. Those guys that have not gotten their paycheck, they can play all day long. Him and John White.
Yeah.
Let's transition into our Dak on track. I'll show you guys our chart for the passing chart. Of course, we've kind of spoken a lot on Dak Prescott so far. There we go. All right. A lot of more intermediate throws and throws over the middle here, but not too much. It's not like the 49ers where, your number 1 linebackers in the NFL are just crowding the middle and we're just chunking the ball at the middle of the field. But we worked the right side of the pylon of the boundaries this week, and I think that speaks to, I think Michael Davis was his name over there on the right side. I think he was playing off ball most of the game, so maybe why those passes got over there. But hey, 21 of 30, 272 yards, touchdown, 7 attempts, 40 yards, and a rushing touchdown, and a Parkinson a mother pear tree. You know what I'm saying? Hey, yo, say that again for the homeboys on the left. But yeah, my letter grade was an A-. I thought Dak on third down. Honestly, I don't like saying minus. I'm going to say A, because A- just sounds negative, but an A. This is highest grade of the year for me. Dak on third down bailed us out, overcame the bad play calling, used his legs in important scenarios, got Lamb involved, and was extremely mobile in the pocket. So I give him an A for those reasons.
Nice. Yeah, I gave him an A-. 2 reasons he didn't get an A+ is because he took some bad sacks, to be honest. There were a couple plays where, like, you got to get the ball out, man. Like, now you could also say that, dude was in absolute save me mode, right? So his whole mindset, it seemed like, from essentially the second quarter on, was like, all right, well, I'm going to have to win this game. And he went out and did it. And then there was a couple throws you could be ticky-tacky and say that, they weren't, absolutely perfect, but definitely could have been, they were catchable. None of them were just like bad throws, bad reads, just absolutely missing receivers. So that was good to see. And it was great to see Dak kind of bounce back from a bad game. I saw a tweet that came out that said, whenever it was like, basically whenever Dak's had a game that was at this QB rating or this whatever, he's always responded with like a top-notch rating, like above 100. Yeah, that's good to see. Last point is Dak can run. with a question mark. I didn't know you could do that anymore. But that was crazy to see. I think we all kind of jumped out of our seats. I know Hunter likes to say glazed. I think we were all a little glazed when we saw Dak pull that.
I don't get you fired up, then you're a fake ass fan, dude. I'm sorry. That is an electric run.
Yeah.
Bolt up,
and I mean, just to see him do that is just good to see. And encouraging at the least is that like, hey, we do have these plays in our playbook, and I know Jerry Jones is probably like, why is he running that damn ball? But it's like, dude, like he's got to. It just opens up so much more. And then my last point is it was just good to see him move around the pocket and move on the run and stuff. It seems like, I know we talk about Dak being like 5-step out, 3-step out. It was kind of good to see like, hey, and I'm not comparing him to him, but that play to Pollard, you want to talk about glazing. If Patrick Mahomes would have made that play, that would have been all over whatever media you wanted it to be on. And so it was just cool to see plays like that, getting out of the pocket, making the throws, making the plays. And it was good to see Dak bounce back, and this game was carried and managed by Dak regardless of the play calling. Unfortunately. So
and like you said, it was good to see the playmaking ability come back in return, especially in a game following a game like the 49ers, where it was rough. So incredible bounce back game from the offense and from Dak and majority of this offense. So let's okay, so we got the bye week coming up, followed by the Rams in week 8. But I wanted to drop a couple of statistics, if you will. This is kind of my little miniature 2-minute drill. And then I'll let you drop your Mamas Don't Let Your Cowboys, and I'll drop mine, and we'll move into our breakdown of your 2-minute drill. So I did before I left work, I did a little calculating of some stats. I was curious how Dak Prescott played after a bye week, and I did some math here. So his record after a bye in his career is 5-2. He has 18 total touchdowns in 7 games, 5 interceptions, and his average passer rating is 103.55.
Damn.
So, analytically speaking, I'm expecting a pretty good game from Dak Prescott against the Rams, who we've kind of had their number the last 2 times the last time we played them, and I think the prior time it was in 2018 or something. But we're ready to even the score in Dak's career and get him to 2-2 against the Rams and 2-0 against Stafford. But what is your Mamas Don't Let Your Cowboys going into the bye week here, and any key points to success, if you will, for the bye week?
Well, I kind of wrote my keys to success for the Rams, but keys to success for the bye week: stay healthy. That has to, you got to finish 1-0 against the bye week, and 1-0 against the bye week means staying healthy and keeping people healthy and getting healthy people or getting injured people back to healthy. Boat picture type stuff. And so that's the biggest thing is you got to work obviously, but you can't get hurt on the bye week. Now we all know that stuff happens, but we come out of the bye week healthy, go into the Rams, everybody's healthy. That's the only thing you could ask for. And my Mamas Don't Let Your Cowboys is come out slow from a bye week. I don't really trust McCarthy right now, and it just seems like the 2 games that were important and obviously emotional games the last 2 weeks, the offense has come out and looked like absolute doo-doo on the first drive. And so you just can't come out and just look lethargic and just look very basic and vanilla against the Rams, who don't seem like they're anything to play with. Like we talked about, they're good enough to beat some good teams, but if you come out average or bad, they're going to beat you. And so that's kind of what I got to say. Mamas, don't let your Cowboys come out slow from a bye week.
Yeah, and to add on to the keys to success for the bye week, I figured the medical guy would talk about healing up. So good on you there. Mine is to continue to improve this offensive scheme and play calling. Just continue to work at it. Obviously it's a point of emphasis. And then Mama's Lunch Cowboys, avoid discussing the play calling mediocrity in the coaches' meetings. That needs to be addressed. Can't avoid it. Can't run from it. It is inevitable. It is the Thanos of your week. So, all right. Well, that is Mama's Lunch Cowboys and our predictions for the bye week. Let's go 1-0 this week. Let's get to the breakdown. Get on track with our 2-minute drills. We're going to miss the kids picks this week. And, of course, we're finished with the Rooks look. So let's get your medical analysis 2-minute drill presented to you by Cuzzo, the medical guy.
Sweet. All right. We got the breakdown, the 2-minute drill, medical injury analysis. Plus, we'll have the DB list, the down bad list thrown on the back there. First, we got Josh Allen ended up on the injury report with a little sore shoulder. You know how he kind of plays. He kind of plays aggressive, runs a lot, can sometimes make some ill-advised decisions as a quarterback. So to see a shoulder banged up for your best player, not a good look there. Justin Fields came out as doubtful. Said he dislocated his thumb. That's in my minimal years of being an athletic trainer and being in the field, I've seen all kinds of fingers dislocated. I've seen ankles dislocated, knees, whatever, elbows, shoulders. Never seen a thumb. And on that throwing hand, that's tough because usually with those dislocations, you end up having ligament damage, tearing, bad sprains, stuff like that. So that's something to watch out for the media's fantasy football quarterback right there. Another young quarterback, is Anthony Richardson, out with an AC injury, AC joint injury. Unfortunately, I kind of called this that those aren't fun to play with and not fun to throw with either. It's looking like he's going to be out for the foreseeable future, possibly the whole year. And that's just tough to see because he seemed like kind of promising. He didn't play much at Florida, kind of came in here and nobody really knew what to expect. But like when he was good, he's really good. When he was bad, it's kind of and it seemed like he turned out like he was a decent quarterback and fun to watch. That's tough to see. We kind of mentioned it earlier. Trevor Lawrence, questionable on a knee. I didn't really see what happened. Don't really know what happened. They haven't really released any kind of details on the severity of the injury. But, like you said before, Vegas always knows something, and they had the Jags not favorited against the Saints. So you never know, okay? Vegas always kind of knows something, always follow the money, so expect what to expect right there. Jimmy G, this was an interesting injury. He came out of the game. They said he had a back injury or a rib injury, and then all of a sudden he had to be taken to the hospital. Only reason for you would do that is if you were worried about internal organs. If you mess up, if you get hit hard in the back or whatever, mess up those kidneys, you have to be taken to the hospital. Or if it's a rib injury and something breaks, you don't want like a punctured lung or any other punctured organ. So that's why you have to go to the hospital. Still pretty scary. I know we're joking about it, but that's pretty scary having to send somebody to the hospital. CMC, Chris McCaffrey had a rib oblique injury. Not trying to be negative, but they have ran that guy into the ground already this year for a guy that's always hurt, always had a hamstring, always had, stuff going on. And then for him to have this, it just shows that, like, hey, he's on pace for like 400 touches this year. That's nuts. So hopefully he's all right, but still tough look. We got Deebo Samuel, as someone called him a running back, but he also plays wide receiver. Had a shoulder injury come up. He's questionable. Ryan Tannehill actually came out, and it looks like he's going to be out for a while. Not that was anybody's fantasy quarterback, but that's tough to see. And it looks like they're not going to play Will Levis either, so that's real tough to see. And that's my last one. Now to the DB list. It's not really a person, but if we've watched in the last 6 weeks of whether it be football or baseball or whatever you got going on, when's the last time you've been to a game, Jared? Whether it be football or baseball.
2021. Oh, baseball?
Either or.
Let's just say 2021 in AT&T Stadium. Yeah.
Yeah. How much money was that ticket?
Like $300.
$300. You get a couple beers, couple drinks or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had to drive there. That's in Dallas. You're spending all this money. You're
supposed to have a band.
You're spending a lot of money, right?
Right.
Why would you spend all this money and then go in there and fight another human being? Okay. So my DB list are fans who fight at games. Okay. I think it's the stupidest thing. It makes you look bad. It makes, you're probably wearing a team jersey. It makes a team look trashy. Just white trash, trailer trash type stuff fighting at the game. After you spend all this money, and then you're going to have to be escorted out. Like I tell, students in my program, it's like, hey, it's all fun and games in high school, but we're adults now. Like, you get in a fight, it ain't no like, oh, you got to go to the principal's office, blah, blah, blah. No, you go to jail. And I think it's the stupidest thing. And we saw a few weeks ago, where a fan actually died from injuries sustained while fighting at a game. Yeah. And I'm going to be honest, it ain't ever that serious, bro. Like, it ain't ever that serious to get in a fight over a media-driven entertainment product, because that's what these sports are. It's entertainment. And for people to get in fights over that, I just think that's the stupidest damn thing I've ever seen, man.
No, I agree.
All this money, you have a good time with your boys or your parents or whatever, and you're wanting to see your team win, and then you got, jackasses over here just throwing freaking Jake Paul versus Nate Robinson over here in the ring, like get out of here. So that's my DB list, down bad. I saw another video come out today. Just DB list, fans who fight at games. Just atrocious look to me.
Yeah, ain't nobody wants to be the guy that gets Bud Light cans, crunched and thrown at you all the time. But no, in all seriousness, it honestly reminds me of I think of Gladiator whenever I see this crap, because it's like Roman Empire, doing all this circus acts and gladiator shows and all that just to keep like the populace distracted on entertainment. And then you just got all these basically degenerates going out there and throwing haymakers at one another over a football game, a regular season football game where there's a season every year where it has no effect on their lives. And, you bought the ticket and you get kicked out and go to jail. That's another couple $1,000 bond or whatever for public intoxication and whatever it may be. So it's just foolishness. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I condemn it.
Just bozo look.
I'm just going to say it. I condemn fighting at games.
Yeah, there you go. I'm glad to have your support, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure America is too.
That wraps up my 2-minute drill.
All right, good deal. Solid, always informational. Let's get into the Rooks looks. Stardom, sit 'em. I should call them the sit 'em stardoms, because whenever I tell you to start, you should sit. Whenever I tell you to sit, you should start. Here's a little recap. A little better this week, but definitely not what I'm looking for. Recap from week 6. I told everybody to start Jacoby Myers, the wide receiver for Las Vegas. That's a green bean. 17.1 PPR points, 7 targets, 5 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown. So not too bad there. Jimmy G's guy. I told everybody to start Josh Downs, the wide receiver from Indianapolis. I would call this someone a green bean. He got the volume. He didn't get the yardage, but he did get in the end zone. 13.1 PPR points, 5 receptions, 21 yards, and a touchdown. Not too bad there. And then This was a tricky one, but I took the risk. I told everybody to sit Drake London, wide receiver in Atlanta. Desmond Ridder just decided that he still plays at Cincinnati. 21.5 PPR points, 12 targets, 9 receptions, 125 yards. I'm convinced. I've always been convinced with Drake London. I've never been convinced with Ridder. I'm still kind of skeptical on this Atlanta team, but PFF tells you that Ridder is a waiver wire target coming into this next game. Believe him or not, I really don't care, but I do like Drake London. I told everybody to sit Amari Cooper, just because of backup quarterback. San Francisco, it just didn't look very likely, but the dude 14.08 PPR points, 8 targets, 4 receptions, 108 yards. Listen, if y'all would have started him after I told you to sit him, and then all of a sudden, like all 3 of you, and then all of a sudden he gets 1 catch for 8 yards on like 8 targets, then you would have been like, damn, he was right. But out of 8 targets, he caught half of them. One of them happened to be a double move. So, hell yeah, Amari Cooper, get your bag, son. Sleeper, this one kind of unfortunate. Cole Kmet, tight end Chicago. Justin Fields got hurt around the second quarter, so he had 2 receptions, 9 yards, 2.9 PPR points. Luckily, I don't think a lot of people started him. So anyway, per usual, it's a new week 7. We'll start with the starts. Of course, stardoms. Christian Watson and Green Bay wide receiver. We're getting a lot of Christians in this one, by the way. Denver secondary that he's going against is off a bye week. Should be finally healthy. So I expect a big game from Christian Watson. Maybe he finds the end zone. Start Christian Kirk, Jacksonville wide receiver. Now, this guy has been very, very consistent as the season has gone on. And they're playing this Thursday night. However, warning to everyone, they might not have Trevor Lawrence. They might have CJ Beathard. However, to contradict that point, play with it how you want. Pause. But the Saints are a man-to-man coverage defense, which Christian Kirk truly thrives on. He's been doing it for a long time. So he's a high-end wide receiver too, but I'd move him down to a flex play, high risk, high reward. Sit Kirk Cousins, Minnesota quarterback, obviously. This is an angry San Francisco team that just lost to the Cleveland Browns. They're also playing on primetime, which this is what I wanted to get into when you mentioned Kirk in primetime earlier at the beginning of the pod. And of course, no Justin Jefferson. I don't see good things here. This cards are stacked against Kirk Cousins heavily. And then I sit James Cook, Buffalo running back. Look, something fishy's going on there in Buffalo with Latavius Murray getting 50-something% of the snaps this week, over 12 touches. They worked out Leonard Fournette as well after the game. Of course, he had -4 yards 2 weeks ago. Not a crazy performance this week. I'm not sure what's going on here. I would rest him if you can. Of course, if you have to start him, you can start him. But I would rest him if you can. I'm not sure what they're doing.
Yeah, I looked at that too. That was very strange. Like I was like, man, James Cook didn't really do anything. And then like all of a sudden I was like, where did Latavius Murray come from? Like last I thought he was on the Ravens, and then
yeah, exactly. And like what the analyst said a couple weeks ago in his 2-minute drill was that he was a number 3 rusher, I think, after 4 weeks. So and all of a sudden it turned to 5 carries and less than 50% of the snaps. And so I'm not sure what's going on, but they finally had a run game and they backed out, I guess. But and then our sleeper this week is Kareem Hunt, Cleveland running back. He had increased usage last week. If you're low on running backs, I think you can take a chance here and just get that high risk, high reward. Solid performance versus the 49ers of all people. His snap percentage has steadily increased as he's joined the roster. I really don't think Jerome Ford is going to be I think it's going to be kind of a hot hand, sort of a Cleveland Browns offense.
Yeah.
But I do think Kareem Hunt's probably the better back when it comes to passing game PPR leagues. So, yeah. And then, of course, we got my favorite. This is our heave of the week. And this one is a special edition because it's anti-heave of the week. Here we go. And hopefully my mic doesn't cut out this time.
You might have to go sit on the bed and do it.
I'm just going to back up a little bit when I do it.
Okay, yeah.
All right, here we go.
Pause.
This is Jalen Hurts' interception. Let's give you all a little play-by-play here.
Yeah, guess the play-by-play.
All right, here we go.
Let's go.
Philadelphia Eagles backed up at their own 45-yard line, doubles to the bottom and top of your screen. Kenneth Gainwell in the backfield. It's 3rd and 9, 14-12 ball game at the 2-minute warning here in the fourth quarter.
At the 46.
Hurts checks the
Hurts facing a 4-man rush over the middle. It's intercepted. Picked off by
quarterback.
Tony Adams. Adams on the run. Breaking tackles. Tossed down inside the 10.
The practice
At the
squad.
46.
Quarterback gets the best of Jalen Hurts for his 3rd interception of the game for your anti of the week. Hopefully I didn't cut it out that time.
So your heave didn't, but the part leading up to it kind of cut off, and then it came back when you went.
So I think what it is the volume on the Twitter profile.
Yeah. It's that's my guess. You could hear like the very beginning, like your play-by-play, and then like when their play-by-play started, it was like it kind of went out, and then it came back right when you said heave, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Thank God, man. Oh my God. Okay, next time, no volume. Sorry, I don't like technology very much. If I had a room, I'd be like, play that and then let me talk. But
yeah,
we're all electricity here and on one screen with 4 different screens.
Yeah, I feel that.
Bad B. I'm gonna be on the DB list next week, brother. Okay. NFL top 10 power rankings for week 7. I'll let you go first.
All right. Let's start with our top 38 teams in the NFL. At number 38, we have, as you predicted, the San Francisco 49ers, because they were in my top 10 and they ended up losing. So some could say you could put them on the DB list, right? So obviously all jokes, but yeah, we're going to go with the drastic take there. We're going to go with a little honorable mention, the TJC Apaches. Go Apaches. They won this past week against Blinn Buccaneers. Took them to the woodshed. Yeah, kind of let them know. Good win. Good back on track for them. Next, we're going to skip all the way down to number 10, and we've got the Zach Wilson, MILF Hunter, Jets.
Yes, sir.
We got the Jets, okay? You know, they're a team that when the Cowboys beat the shit out of them, they sucked ass. But when everybody else plays them, it's like, oh, they're a good team. So I would put them at number 10.
Every quarterback we've played so far.
Yeah. Mr. Salah doesn't know what he's talking about. I can't say that. He knows what he's talking about. But it was just a dumbass quote. At number 9, we have the Cleveland Toilet Bowls. You know, they managed to win a game against the 49ers with an XFL stud, no running back, just awful uniform scheme. Nothing to do with how they play, but I still can't get over it. They managed to win that game, and they're actually 3-2. I'm going to have them at number 9. Next, we have the Jacksonville Margot Robbies. We got the Jaguars at number 8 with Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, it's going to be a big deal as if he's missing this game or not, but they seem like a pretty decent team. Got a lot of good weapons. Quarterback's obviously good. Defense is a little feisty. Got at number 8. Next, we have Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. It seems like he's been taking his probiotics this year. No more shitting his pants during the middle of games. The only people that are shitting their pants are his receivers. So he probably needs to share his, ritual routine with him. That way he can have somebody that can catch the damn ball for him. They learn how to catch the ball. This team could be probably one of the best teams in the NFL, to be honest. Next, we have the Bills, the Josh Allens, the hero balls, the Supermans. Even though they played an atrocious game against the Giants where they should have lost to Tyrod Taylor and the Brian Daybals, a win's a win. So
Amen.
they're staying in there. Surprisingly, to some, maybe not a surprise to others, we have the Dallas Cowboy Divas as my number 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, number 5 team in the league. I thought that was a good win. I know we talked about that the Cowboys would never get above 6 until they beat a decent team. Now, obviously, the media is going to tell you that the Chargers suck ass now and are poverty. But there's going to be all kinds of excuses made, field goal or goalposts moved, different takes about how the Chargers suck now. But I thought that was a really good game. I thought it was great that the Cowboys won a little differently. It was a closer game. Didn't have 17 turnovers and 4, TDs on defense. It was the Cowboys offense went and won a game, and the defense played pretty well too. Next, we have the Phillies. I know I'm kind of going against my script of kicking teams out that lose, but I really just don't like the 49ers either, and they were number 1. And so Philadelphia Eagles are at number 4. Even though they played really bad, they still could have won that game. And so I just think they're still a good team. Next, and these 3 honestly could be put in any order. I have the Detroit lover of kneecaps, Lions with Aiden Hutchinson, Jared Goff, or as somebody named him on their team in our fantasy league, bitch ass white boy. They're at number 3 at 5-1. They've really been a surprise to me. Let's see if they can keep it up and just see how they can go. For fantasy reasons, I have Jared Goff on my team. Need him to show out. Number 2, I got the Pfizer boy and his lover Taylor Swift, the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, I got them at number 2, and then I got the Miami Dolphins with Tua Tagovailoa, Tua Tagovailoa, or whatever y'all say. But I got them at number 1 with Mike Daniels and his weird weed smoking ass. Just knock off Vanilla Ice looking ass. Just he just
going in on Mike McDaniel.
He just looks fun. I don't know if you saw that old video of him on like 60 Minutes or whatever when he was like a ball boy, but he just looked like a dweeb.
All right, we're going to dig deep in the archives here because you are the only person I might know that might know this. You're big other guys, movie guy. I think Mike McDaniel looks like the nerd at the end who's supposed to put the pension fund through.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think I'm still for fun. Like the guy that –
yeah.
Every time I see Mike McDaniel, I think of that. Like prison food and penis.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's a phenomenal movie, man.
Movie.
But yeah, that's my top 35 teams in the NFL right here. So,
35, baby.
We'll throw it back to you and pause and let you get with it on the top 10 teams.
I was quick to react too. All right, we're gonna start. We're gonna start at number 33. The Chargers, just behind the Tennessee Volunteers, who beat the Texas A&M Aggies. The reason I had the Chargers at 33 is because of what you said. They're horrible now that we've beat them. So they're the worst football team in the country or in the United States. So they're outside of the spectrum of NFL teams. Poverty, still the Dallas Cowboys, because they beat a shitty Chargers team and a horrible offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. who was the problem in Dallas. And Kellen Moore was never a good coordinator, and he was never going to explode with Justin Herbert. Nobody ever said that. All right, let's flip over to one. I'm going to go. I want to just highlight a couple changes to you guys because mine's been kind of consistent throughout the year. I got a couple drops. 49ers dropped from 1 to 3. No jokes there. So sorry, but they've 1 to 3. Eagles dropped from number 4 to number 7. And the Bills dropped from number 5 to number 9. So replacing them is number 4, 5, and 6. Number 4, the Dolphins. Number 5, Mr. Pfizer. And number 6, the lover of kneecaps in the Lions. And then, of course, number 8, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
What?
/ Ravens, because I wanted to throw that one out there and wait for somebody to react. But Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada are at number 8 with the Ravens because the Ravens lost to the Steelers in a ghetto ass game, and a gang violence of a game. And then of course number 1 and 2. Number 2, the New York Jets. They beat the fantastic, phenomenal Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. Into the fucking Pentagon. Welcome to New York. The Jets are the new number 2. And number 1, we've got the Cleveland Browns, who take down the 49ers in the Meadowlands. The one thing I regret is I don't have a lot of R teams in here, so I can't do a lot of the Ravens.
Yeah.
But they made the top 10. So, number 1, Browns. Number 2, Jets. Number 3, 49ers. Number 4, Dolphins. Number 5, Chiefs. Number 6, Lions. Number 7, Eagles. Number 8, Ravens. Number 9, Bills. Number 10, Bengals. Number 11, Cowboys. Number 12, Chargers. Number 33, Chargers. That is my number 10 top 10.
There we go.
All right. Well, let's get into let's close it out with our records of the week. I'll start this one off. Little quitting time segment here. The Texas Rangers are 7-0 in the postseason and are 2-0 going into Game 3. I know what your stat is, so I don't think we overlapped one another there. But the actual record of the week here will be the Rangers' postseason record when they blow the next 3 games in Arlington and go 0-3 at home. So, it's all great on paper until we go back to our home field advantage. So, whatever you got for yours, I think I know what it is.
So my record of the week is a bad record, depending on who you root for. Is the Astros home record this year in the year of our Lord 2023. Their home record, if you include playoffs, is 39-45. So they have a losing record at Minute Maid Park.
That's nuts.
So before the season ended, they played 3 games at Minute Maid in the playoffs. Okay, so they were 39-42 in the regular season at home, and still won 90 games. So you could just imagine how good they were away, and you could take it as a good thing or a bad thing with the upcoming series. But it's just crazy to me that a team that is 6 games below 500 at home on the year, including playoffs, is in the playoffs. And so that's my track record of the week, good or bad, depending on who you root for.
Yeah.
So,
well, I root for the. All right. Well, that wraps up track 18. Bolt up. We'll be back next Wednesday per usual. Of course, actually going to be starting a live edition of Track on Twitter. So you'll see this episode at 2 p.m. Central at the Track Pod on Twitter every Wednesday. Of course, you won't get this snippet. It'll be reduced to under 2 hours. So we'll usually cut the records of the week out on the Twitter one and fix things up a little bit there. But IG is our primary media. So if you want to follow for memes, attention, updates, anything like that at trak.pod or on TikTok at trak.unscripted. And you can listen and watch on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or you can go to our link tree in our bio to find us anywhere. I mean, I'm talking like iHeartRadio, Google Play, Amazon Music, fucking Pandora, you name it.
AM, FM, you name it. Don't know what it is, but
AM, FM 740. You can catch us at the Do-Si-Do off 1488. Yeah, head ass. But all right. Thank you guys once again for all your support. Go Cowboys. We are 4-2 headed into the bye. Hell, we might take a bye week. Who knows? Just kidding. The grind never stopped. But see y'all next Wednesday. The medical guy, always a pleasure. Go Cowboys.
Go Stars. Go Cowboys. Go Astros. Go ahead. Say what you want to say about the Rangers.
Hey, Texas hockey. Yes. Good shout out there.
Let's go.
Go Rangers. Good series coming up. Thank you all.
Later.